Hi, I'm Hannah Carsonell, and tonight I'm going to be discussing the role of teachers in policy advocacy. So, we're going to be talking about from the classroom to the Capitol, the role that teachers have in policy advocacy. And my background is in public policy. I have a master's in public policy, and I've done some nonprofit work on gun violence awareness, on social justice, racial justice, and environmental racism. So this is our overview to sort of guide everyone through the presentation. So the first slide, I'm going to do a little bit about us as an organization, talk about our team, discuss what policy advocacy is, discuss personal advocacy for a student versus policy advocacy. I'm going to be speaking about teachers advocating for policies, the process of policy advocacy, advocacy under new federal policies in education, case studies. Then I'll be concluding and showing my resources that I use. So, about us, Quarantine Racism Educational Services, we are dedicated to serving students, supporting teachers, administrators, and parents through emphasizing equity and the strengths of diversity in the classroom. So, Quarantine Racism Educational Services is Black owned, veteran owned. We provide free resources. We have an equity professional development course, which is on sale for $99. We have textbooks for sale. We supply free articles, graphics, and videos on initiatives and current events on our website and social medias. We do live stream presentations such as this one and panel discussions Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do these live streams live on the Quarantine Racism Educational Services Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. And it's the same name for everything. So this is our team here. Dr. Moomin is a racial equity brand ambassador based in Nevada. Dr. Campbell is our founder, former principal and educator based in New Jersey. And there's me again. I'm a racial equity brand ambassador, and I'm based in Massachusetts, but originally from Florida. So that's why I might mention Florida education policy a lot. So, what is policy advocacy? Policy advocacy is the process of negotiating and mediating a dialogue through which influential networks, opinion leaders, and ultimately decision makers take ownership of ideas, evidence, and proposals and subsequently act upon them. So, advocacy from personal to policy. So, I wanted to discuss how teachers both advocate for students and advocate for policy as well. But sometimes teachers may not be sure about how to go about policy advocacy, but they do individually advocate for their students and different issues that may happen throughout the school or their colleagues and themselves. So, teachers already advocate for students each and every day, but how can teachers advocate for all encompassing policy changes that will impact students outside of their classrooms or in other schools? This is how teachers can engage in advocating for policies. Determine and discuss issues occurring within the school or within the state, even due to a policy that already exists or an issue that you believe should be addressed by a new policy. Or it could also be an alternative policy to one that already exists. So, collective action is important. You can build a coalition of colleagues, teachers, parents, community members, local organizations, and officials. Participate in policy discussions such as school board meetings at a smaller level, city council, local, state lobbying organizations, protest, can call or write letters to your representatives, and advocate for or against policies in meetings during protests and calls and letters to representatives. You can also testify in different meetings and hearings. The process of advocating for policy. So, the first step is going to be identifying the problem, setting clear goals, and researching. Number two is mapping the stakeholders, building relationships, and engaging with decision makers. Number three, engaging in coalition building, lobbying, grassroots organizing, and raising awareness, which is really important. This step is very important because it sort of shapes how everything else will go. You want to craft a really concise message so everyone knows what you're attempting to do and can get on board with it. So you want to do that, plan events, protests, online events, raise awareness, build solidarity within the community and the public, write letters to and call public officials, testify at hearings, write opinion editorials, and speak out on social media. Then you want to track the developments, progress, and impact of your proposed policy or the policy that you're advocating against or suggesting a, a different policy to address whatever issue it's attempting to. And you want to adjust your strategies depending upon what occurs. If something doesn't work or you come across a certain issue, then you want to adjust the way in which you're trying to achieve your goal, whatever the policy is. And then you want to collaborate and learn from others in order to maintain progress or continue working on your advocacy. You really want to learn from others, different organizations, people, officials, all the above, because that's really what keeps you going and it can help you gain more ideas about what to do in certain situations. And you can get different people's expertise and you might come across things that they have in the past and they could help you through a certain situation if you come across a roadblock. And it's important to recognize different achievements that you've made throughout the process to continue to stay motivated and not be discouraged, which also depends upon the success of the policy advocacy. So I actually wanted to discuss one instance of a policy that I advocated for. So I was personally affected by gun violence and a shooting at my school, and I've worked with this organization, Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. And we went to the state house, the Florida State House in Tallahassee, and they were proposing a bill to deal with mm, housing protections, job security for crime survivors. And I also propose that they should add educational accommodations to that because of my experiences and struggling to focus at the same school where shooting happened and the building still up that it happened in. So it was hard for a lot of us to focus after that. So I proposed to add educational accommodations to that, and we spoke to different representatives about the bill. So that's just an example of something that you can do. And there's so many different organizations that you might not even be aware of that are local near you or just within your state that are doing a lot of similar work like that and going and meeting with representatives or calling and mailing letters to them or emailing. So, how can teachers engage in policy advocacy under current federal policies? You can collaborate with local and state organizations and organizations like the National Education Association, the National Policy and Advocacy Network for Teachers, United We Dream. And it's important to know your rights and to know that if they're violated, you should try to reach out to the ACLU, Legal Defense Fund, or similar orgs or local attorneys or lawyers that might be able to do even pro bono work with something like this at this time. So there's something that's been done recently that I've been seeing in Massachusetts and in other states with what's been happening with ICE recently. There have been some schools that are establishing a safe zone resolution for their schools where they're bringing about a resolution where ICE cannot go into the schools, or they don't have to answer about the whereabouts of a student, etc. So this one I put DIY, do it yourself change, because right now there are a lot of roadblocks and there's just a lot going on and a lot of harm that's being done within education policy right now. So there are a lot of challenges at the moment. So in those times like that, it's important to work alongside different organizations and engage in organizing and advocacy if you're struggling to get through to local or state officials. So I always like to do case studies to sort of map out that these things are happening in real time and the ways in which they can happen. And I like to do positive and negative examples so we can see from each side how different things are occurring. So I recently saw the case of the Chicago Teachers Union, and I also wanted to make it known that the mayor of Chicago was a big union leader. So they proposed $10 billion for their funding, the Chicago Teachers Union, and they received $1.5 billion. So some of the things that they were able to do with that was a part of their demands that they were demanding, was that they got a restorative safety and discipline program and practices. So no school resource officers and a lot of police in the schools. Another thing is teachers are allowed to supplement or change curricula and lesson content, which is something that would be big, especially right now with the anti DEI legislation and education policy. And they also established some new positions and raises, including special ed positions and ESL. Now, on the other hand, the Moms for Liberty organization lobbied for the Stop Woke Act that was done by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, which began K through 12 book bans in Florida, banning books on racism, the LGBTQIA community, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, basically every phobia and Semitism, etc., and every ism. Yeah. So that was something that was done in 2022. And then to conclude, teachers can and have been advocating for their students, community, and themselves on both a personal level and through advocating for policies. So they can do so, again, by identifying an issue, setting goals, and conducting research on said issue. Then they want to determine stakeholders, build relationships, and interact with public officials, people within the community, colleagues, parents, students, former students. And then they also want to do coalition building with community, organizations, colleagues, parents. And it's important to communicate with public officials and raise awareness through different events, initiatives, and online events, as you can reach a lot more people and get a lot of momentum that way as well. Then the next step is tracking the development, progress, and impact of the policy, or whether it's a policy that you're trying to fight against or the policy that you're advocating for. And Collaborating is extremely imperative, learning from others and noting your achievements to maintain progress and to diminish the feelings that may come up of discouragement. It's also important for teachers to know their rights while doing so, and if their rights are encroached upon, that they can reach out to legal orgs or local attorneys. And a lot of people now are doing a lot of pro bono work with the federal policies that have been passed. So these are the sources that I use for this presentation. And then this is where you can contact us. So at the beginning, I have the general quarantine racism accounts. Then I have Dr. Campbell's accounts information, Dr. Moomin's information, and mine as well, our LinkedIn referral link and Dr. Moomin's work phone, Dr. Campbell's email, and the quarantine racism accounts.